Okay, so uh, on 2 weeks ago, we talked about writing task one. And so just as a quick review, we talked about how it's scored by the teachers, and then we had information on what are the teachers looking for and how do you write the complaint letter. For
Yes.
last week, we talked about the two options that you have. And so I gave information from one of the sample tests online from CELPIP. Again, how does it marked and scored by the teachers? And then we talked about if you were to choose in a small town of 10,000 people, do you have a green space, or if you want a shopping mall? And then I gave the homework of writing and giving your opinion on which choice you would make. Today, as you can see from the shared screen, I'm on the CELPIP website again, and I want to talk about how a little bit different details about how it's marked, and then I'm going to show you some samples from students of mine in the past and how I help them with their evaluation. So this is from the celpip.ca website. If you go up to the top right-hand corner under Take CELPIP, and you go down a couple of spaces, there's one that says test results. So that's the page that I'm on right now. And so just general information is one nice thing, because CELPIP is online, you can get your results a couple of days after the test date, so 4 to 5 days. And the information will be given to you and available as a download for a PDF. You can ask for it to be priority shipped, although it's an additional fee that you have to pay for. And you can also get the hard copy for an additional charge if you need that. But most of the time, it's just available online in your account. You can apply for a reevaluation, and I'll just talk a bit about that a little bit further down. So you can ask it for your score to be reevaluated. So there's more general information where it summarizes that part. And then I'm just going down. So it has a note here. Sometimes I've seen in different groups where they're asking, can I get my listening or my reading evaluated again, reevaluated? And usually it's unlikely, as they say here, it's a computer that's scoring your listening and your reading, because they're just adding the questions. So it's unlikely that they're going to change your reading score or your listening score. So I don't think that that's, very beneficial. But I'll talk a bit more about the reevaluation as we go further down. So in general, as you may have already seen, there's different levels with CELPIP going from 0 up to 12. Most students are aiming for at least a 9 for immigration purposes, but different visas have different requirements depending if you're working here or you have a temporary foreign visa. Or I'm not a consultant for immigration, so I won't get into details, but you can find what score is a minimum and then what score you're looking to get more points for that. What I want to focus a little bit more on is here what the teachers are looking for. And this is I talked of this in each of the other classes, but this format's a bit easier to see. So basically we're looking at what you've talked about, how many ideas, the quality of your ideas. So does it make logical sense, or is it not really a strong argument? How you've organized and how you support your information. They're also looking at your vocabulary, which is similar with IELTS or with other exams, your choice. But here they're looking not just for the words or high-level vocabulary, but is it precise, and what's the range that you're using? I sometimes see students use lots of nice academic words or high-level vocabulary, but it's not suitable for the sentence that you're using it in. So the words, and then CELPIP focuses also on phrases. So how are you putting different phrases in that we would be using in day-to-day conversation or in a formal setting in communicating with your manager or with a coworker, etc. With the readability, we're looking at how you've organized it, how you're connecting this with, in addition, also on the other hand, for example, your grammar and spelling. All of that is under one category here. That's where parts of these are in different categories under IELTS. And then how many words you have, how complete you are in answering the question, and are you talking about things that are related to that topic, or are you just talking about, you know, if you're in a shopping mall, are you using phrases that we would hear more commonly in those areas? Um, Now, what I also want to just emphasize for 2 or 3 minutes here is the people that are rating you, because I think this is where there's the most confusion, and a lot of students have complaints about their speaking or their writing mark. And I often have students, I see comments in different groups asking, you know, I got a 7, should I have it reevaluated? I got an 8 in speaking, should I have it, or writing, should I have it reevaluated? So first of all, the people that are evaluating your reports, they're either native speakers or they've already scored CLB 11 or 12 in as a non-native but speaking English. So they're not allowing people who have not taken a high level or grown up in a native English speaking country. They need at least a bachelor's education, Canadian certification, which is different than different countries. My wife was teaching English in Indonesia. She's from Indonesia originally. She still had to take additional certification and qualifications here in Canada in order to be recognized by TESOL Canada. For myself, because I have my master's, there's 4 levels in TESOL Canada. I'm already at the level 3. The only way I would get higher is if I continued to be a professor of training teachers within it. It means that I've taught for more than 2,000 hours and I have a master's and I have different settings. So they want people that have at least taught 3 years. They have been certified in Canada and they have a bachelor's. But more important, I think, is how are they trained? So they are given training over several weeks, maybe even months, with a manual. They have exercises, samples. I've gone through the 2nd level of this training. There is a 3rd level, but they must maintain 80% on par with what the other raters are giving the same writing and same part. But I think the single biggest difference that people need to realize here, and you can read more of this on your own, but the procedure, this is where students with IELTS, you might have 1 or 2 people giving you an IELTS score. With CELPIP, it has here, so the writing performance is rated by 4 raters. So when you do task 1, there's 2 teachers that are marking that task 1 independent of each other. So the work is sent to them. They don't know each other. They don't know what the other person is giving. They give a score based on their training and their rating. 2 other teachers that are also separate from those first 2 are then rating your task 2. And from those 4 scores, you're brought into one combined mark. So that's where with IELTS, you have a 1/3 of your mark goes for task 1, 2/3 of it goes for your essay in task 2. CELPIP is different. So when students ask me, well, I got a 7, should I have it reevaluated to an 8? Sometimes a senior instructor will look at everything, look at all the scores and maybe bump it up, but you're already having 4 teachers look at it. So it's, you know, if 4 teachers say this is your score, then it's kind of, you know,
There's no big change.
yeah, like it's, if 1 teacher was scoring you, then you could say, well, that's their opinion, or they're not as trained as well, but the CELPIP system has been set up to try to eliminate differences in how they're scored, and it's a joining together of different teachers' marks. So I'm not saying never try to reevaluate, but it'll be close. You're not going to be given a 7, but actually you should have got a 9 or a 10 or something. It means that there's areas, and I'm just going to go up quickly. It means that there's areas in your content, vocabulary, readability, and tasks that you have to work on in order to improve your score before you take the exam again. Similarly, I have some students that look at the exam and then they take it, they get a 7 and they say, okay, I'm taking it again in 2 weeks. That's not really realistic. And I had a conversation class about this a week or 2 ago that's on our Facebook group. Typically, to move from level to level, In general English, you need hundreds of hours, 200 to 300 hours. When you're studying specifically for a test, you still need to understand what they're looking for and be studying and practicing over a month, 2 months in order to see an improvement from that. So
Yeah.
just, I wanted to emphasize some of that. I will note, I am not a certified CELPIP instructor, meaning I help students privately. I've taken their training, but I am not scoring CELPIP exams. Otherwise, that
Mhm.
would be a conflict of interest. If I was working for CELPIP and or Paragon, the company, and then I was also helping students privately. I just help
I,
students privately from that.
I understand. Yeah.
So let's just take a quick look. I wanted to, I've had different students send me their responses. This was not sent to me in the last few weeks. This is from a student I had about 6 or 8 months ago. So
Mm-hmm.
I just want to identify and show you what this student wrote in some of my comments for them. So this was the restaurant situation that we talked about, and I wanted you guys to write a homework about. So state what problems you had with the food, complain about the service, and ask for a solution. How do they resolve the problem? So the
Yes.
person has great organization. They start with a general intro. They introduce their name and the situation, what was happening and where they ate, why they're complaining. So water and food quality, although this actually should be waiter. They
Yeah.
have information about the food and the amount, and then they move in and talk about the service, the waiter's behavior that they didn't like. They jump back and talk about the food quality, and then they're saying to give the money back. And if not, then they want to complain to the main franchise branch. So they've organized reasonably well what the situation is. It's better here with this food quality. This should go up right underneath where they're talking about what kind of food they had. So it's more in one section. So here's everything about the food, here's everything about the waiter, and then
Oh, I
here's
love it.
from that. So so this is a corrected version that I've edited from this person. So this is where when I'm looking, I go through and help with their grammar and their spelling, but that's not the
Mm-hmm.
first thing I look at. I am looking for the order and how it's organized. So
Mm-hmm.
you'll see there's different areas like Italian, Spanish, Greek. Um, there's a bit of the grammar and vocabulary, and then there's some word choices that are not either spelled right or different words we would use. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so my strengths and weaknesses for this person is it's clear, easy to understand. There are specific details about the food, the problem, how to solve it, but here's the weaknesses that this student has to work on. Some of the verb tenses, etc. With this student, I didn't do this specifically, but I'll show you an example of a second different student. Um, so what I do, let me just make this bigger. Okay. And so that's where I highlight here. I'm not giving students a specific score because the students are nervous or distracted. There might be different things they're doing during the exam, or they don't know the exam talk as well. And as I said earlier, there's two separate teachers marking task one, and then two other teachers are marking task two. So for me as one teacher, I can't give a specific score, but what I do is I look through the students' strengths and weaknesses, and then I give them a range of what I'm seeing they're looking for, and I identify which areas. So with content coherence, task fulfillment, um, and I can't see the end of that, but um, that's what I would give with the range, and 7 to 8s I would give this person for vocabulary and readability.
Mm-hmm.
That way a student can at least look at and then start working on changes, corrections, and then send it back to me in order to, or sorry, not send it back to me, but they look at it, and then when they do another example or another task in the future, that gives them an idea of um, how to improve and what changes they need to make.
Yeah.
Uh, So let me just pause there and see if there's any questions, and then I'll end off our time just by talking about things, options that students have if they're asking for help from me personally. Um, So any questions from what I talked about, just with how the, what the teachers are looking for, how it's evaluated, etc.?
Till now, everything is clear. I just have a question about the test of the last week, the
Sure.
CELPIP test, the second one.
Yeah.
Because I was doing it, and I have a question about the tense, the verb tenses, because it was about the green area in the city.
Yes.
And I know that in the IELTS and the CELPIP, I have to use many times the different tenses. But actually, in some situations and in some topics, I think I only can use the present and the future. I can't I can't imagine myself writing different tenses in a certain topics. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's,
Yeah, that's a good question. So with verb tenses, it's not so much that you need different styles of tenses. Like if the paragraph is talking about things that you want in the future, all of that paragraph will be about future tenses or present tense. Um,
yeah.
the key for tenses is just, is it consistent? So if the topic in, or the question in the choices is talking about future activities, then you would say what's happening now with present tense and in the future. You wouldn't be using, unless you gave a specific example. Like if you said, we want a green park because last week my son
Yeah.
was wanting to go out and play. Like, so the key for the sentence structure is not always as much the verb tenses. It's more the how are you using simple sentences, compound sentences, or complex sentences. That's where
Mm-hmm.
you can give more variety. But if you're just using present and future verb tenses because that's the way the question is worded, that's
Yeah.
fine. You don't have to try to mix in other verb tenses, because as you saw, we're looking at a whole bunch of different areas, and the grammar is just one part, and verb tenses are only a small part of the grammar section from that.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the answer. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Fadi, do you had any questions or anything from what I've explained?
Hello, sir.
Hi, good to see
No,
you.
everything is clear, but it's too much for for
Yep.
teachers, like the soccer.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
Like
understand. There's always
yeah,
all
but
sorts
the
of,
IELTS, I think only one.
yeah,
Sorry.
well, and that's where when, yeah, like it's too much, but that gives you a better overall view of what the teachers are looking for that. So,
Yeah, they make it crystallizes. They give you a real mark.
yeah, that's what I would say, because when students come to me and say, I got a low mark in my IELTS, it's like, okay, well, let me look at it and maybe I can see some general areas to improve. Um, but you can't, but there that like an individual can say, well, that teacher wasn't that good, or I think I should have got higher, etc. But with CELPIP, as I said, the question depends on at the exam time. You might not be as familiar with the question, but there's 4 different teachers looking at your answer and giving you a combined score. So it's harder to say one teacher might be a little bit out, but then the other teacher will be a bit high, and it evens out or averages out. So 2 weeks ago, as I said quickly at the start, we talked and I gave you homework for task 1. Last week was for task 2. And today was more just how the teachers are marking and what they're looking at. I will show you one more thing just before we end off for today. In our Facebook group, and I've already gone into the specific area, but there is a link, and I can put this in again. Sometime, like I'm giving every student an opportunity to give me information for free. So, meaning I'll evaluate one task 1 and one task 2 for free. But I often have students saying, but I want 3 evaluations, or I want more evaluations. There's a link in our Facebook group where you can click on forms, and then you can go, and it has a registration form. So somebody actually just filled this out a few days ago because they want some help with CELPIP writing. So I have a whole range because I'm working with several teachers. There's lots of choices or options, but what I want to highlight is letter F, because some students say, well, I don't need a whole class. I already understand there's lots of different material. I just want some feedback on my writing. And it doesn't matter to me whether it's CELPIP or whether it's IELTS. I've done IELTS since 2007. I've done CELPIP the last several years. Either way, I'll give some feedback on your strengths and weaknesses, and you can choose if you want that done on 4 different topics, or if you want that done on 10 different topics from that section. Or for some students, they also want help with speaking. And so similar, you can do IELTS or you can do CELPIP. I send you the exam. They're mock exams or practice exams. And then you would look at those and you would write it out or speak using WhatsApp or Facebook, send me those. And then I or another trained teacher would be marking that. We do also have preparation classes that are 10 hours each. So that's an option for some, either CELPIP or IELTS. Or there are some students that say, Mr. Trevor, I just want to be, some private lessons. So if it's general conversation or grammar, then it's we have those options. If it's preparing for exams, then we have those options. So I'll just throw that in at the end of our class time here just to show you. Again, it's in our Facebook group, and that allows students that want more help from us a chance to have us as experienced teachers look and give you feedback. I have time for one more question if anyone does have a question, and then I'm going to end this, and then I'm going to work with, we have an IELTS session after this, which is talking about writing the IELTS essay.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I have a question. Is there
Yep.
any other time for the registration?
You mean registration for CELPIP?
Yeah, for this form you put just in.
Okay. Yeah. So in our Facebook group, there is a link to the. Here, I'll go back to. I can go back to the Facebook group and show you specifically. So on our Facebook page, what I find, sometimes students are a bit confused. Where do I find things in your Facebook group? If you look on the left-hand side here where I'm highlighting in, sorry, the right-hand side where I'm highlighting in blue, you see under there it says courses for a fee. I think I'll change that to just paid classes, so you can click there. Or yes. A second option is here under pay, like there's a search bar on the left-hand side, and if you put in paid or paid classes and then click enter, it will come up with the post that I showed you earlier, where it has yes. the information, and then it has the forms. You click on it, and then that'll take you into a Google Drive document where you can look for that information.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So if you joined us a little bit late, that's okay. I've recorded the session. It will be on our Facebook group, and please go through and see the videos from the last 2 weeks. Send me homework from that, which I'll be evaluating for free. And then if you do need some more help with CELPIP or IELTS, then I or some of the other teachers can help you with that. I'll just put the link for our, so starting in 1 or 2 minutes, then we're going to have an IELTS session. And then in 30 minutes, we have free conversation. So I've just put in the chat room there the link, and it's also in our Facebook group for the IELTS class. And if you're not taking IELTS, but you want to join us for the conversation class, then here's the link for that as well. So thank you guys for joining, and hopefully we'll see you either in the IELTS or the conversation, or both. You can join us for both today.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you guys then.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, bye for now.